This episode of the Concierge CPA Podcast is brought to you by Tax Plan IQ. Welcome to the Concierge CPA. I'm Jackie Meyer, founder of the Concierge Accountant Program and Tax Plan IQ software. This is a podcast for accounting firm owners and influencers who are pursuing world-class service. We discuss their path to excellence, their daily habits, and what influences them and their work. We believe that every person has a unique message that can positively impact the world. Stick around till the end of the show. We'll reveal how you can be our next guest. Let's go, y'all. Welcome to the Concierge CPA Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jackie Meyer, CPA, where we get to the bottom line of the numbers and data for entrepreneurs and accountants alike. I have Jennifer Baker here today, and she is someone that we recommend for one of my favorite tax strategies: defined benefit plans, a cash balance plan, which we can dive a little bit as we go. What are the differences between those? Because I get a little confused just like anybody else, but I'm really happy to have you, Jennifer. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on the show.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about your background. I know you're a native Texan, just like me. So we're, Texan sisters like that. Tell me more. How'd you get into wealth management and, what's your story?
Sure. I always knew I wanted to do wealth management from an early age. I went to A&M and someone gave me really good advice that if I wanted to do wealth management, I should learn about taxes. So I did the PPA program, got my CPA license, went and worked for PwC and did taxes for a while, then eventually got my CFP and got back into the wealth management where I originally wanted to be.
Okay, cool. So I grew up in College Station. So you lucked out. Growing up in College Station is a really different experience from just going to college in College Station. I hear it's really great to be an Aggie, but you get exposed to all the things way too young when you grow up there. But yeah, that's great. And so where was at PwC? What city was that in?
In Dallas.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And so that's what we were talking about earlier, where you were in the Capel area and whatnot. Awesome. Okay. Very cool. So you're a CPA, you're a CFP, so you're an overachiever. Okay. Got it. So tell me all about your firm now.
Now it's a small firm. It's me and I have a couple of people that work with me, and we're a full service wealth management firm. We work mostly with CPAs to partner with them on their clients and help their business owners. So it's a lot of fun. I really like it.
Awesome. So how did you get into working directly with CPAs instead of kind of with the general public or taxpayers?
Yeah, I think having a tax background and, getting into some of the groups that are doing tax planning, and just seeing that there was kind of a hole with clients where there was that overlap of what their CPA could do for them, and then they needed to help implementing the strategies. And so that's where we just really started working with a couple CPAs and found that it was a good partnership. And we just really like being able to offer everything the client needs all kind of in one place and one team.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk more about that. What all do you offer to your clientele?
For us, we usually manage clients' investments. We can set up qualified plans. We can help with more the individual tax planning. We leave the business tax planning to the CPAs, but we'll help with if clients need to do Roth conversions or kind of how they can get money over into the tax-free bucket, those kind of things. But really everything wealth management.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. And one of my favorite tax strategies is, of course, cash balance plans. It's like the easy way to describe it to me is like a 401k on crack. I don't know if that's, the appropriate way to say it, but
yep, that's exactly how we describe it.
Oh, great. Okay, good. So we're on the same page here too.
We usually say supercharged instead of on crack, but same difference.
There you go. Okay, fine. So what is a cash balance plan?
I mean, I think that the way you described it makes it easier for people to understand. It's just a qualified plan. I think so many times it's a new term, and so people get really confused. But it's just a qualified plan where they can put money away for retirement, and it's a defined benefit versus a defined contribution. But it really works the same way. Once they get money in, they have to leave it there till 59 and a half, and then they can use it for retirement.
Okay, so people were laughing at me the other day because I had to relook up the difference between defined contributions and defined benefits. And it's very simple once you look it up. I mean, the defined contribution is exactly what you have to put in up front, like a 401k, right? And the defined benefit is exactly what you're going to get on the back end, right?
We always say it's working backwards. So, with the defined contribution, you put in $20,000, it grows to whatever amount, and that's what you have later. With this one, we're saying, okay, at age 59 and a half, if you want $1 million, then you have to put in this amount to get there. So it's just a working backwards on the plan.
And why is this so lucrative for taxpayers?
This is great because with a 401k or a SEP, they're going to be limited to $69,000 a year to be able to put away. This is something where you can put away $100,000. We've had people put away up to $1 million. So it just depends, for the people who really want to make a difference in their tax liability. This is one of those plans that it doesn't just save them a few thousand. I mean, this can be really, really significant tax savings for a client.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, you said you've had someone put in $1 million at a, let's say, 37% tax rate. That's $370K in tax savings for that 1 year, which is insane. That
doesn't include state tax. So if they have state tax on top of that,
You're right. Yeah. We don't have to worry about that here in Texas, but there's a lot of states that sure do. And so what makes something what you'd call a cash balance plan versus like other types of defined benefit programs?
You have your investments in the cash balance plan. They're going to grow. It grows to a certain amount, and then you can either roll it over to an IRA or you can pension it out. It doesn't have to be a defined benefit in the sense of, like an annuity payment at the end. You can always take that balance and just roll it into an IRA.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, several years ago, when I had my own CPA firm, I sold it in 2022. We had he was about 50 years old, entrepreneur, attorney, netting $1 million plus with his business. And it was determined that he could put about $330K a year, but then there was something where you could pre-stack the benefit to where he was deducting, and it ended up being about $1 million in 1 year. How does that work, being able to kind of like pre-stack that benefit?
Well, so we work with actuaries who actually design the plan, but they're able to be very flexible. And so that's what we really enjoyed working with this company specifically, is that it doesn't have to be a specific amount each year. So it doesn't have to be somebody committing to $300,000 for the next 10 years. Because with business owners, they don't know. 1 year they may have a really good year and they want to be able to put 500,000 in, but then the next year maybe it's not a good year and they only want to put 100,000 in. So we like being able to have that flexibility, and one way that they can do that is by using that pre-funding. So they may pre-fund it up front, which will lessen the amount they can put in later, or they can, we can adjust either how much the client is paying themselves, or there's some other levers that they can pull to make those adjustments. So it leaves it to where it can be really flexible for the business owner.
Okay, let's talk about parameters on who this is good for. So there's kind of this like age index that you can kind of Google. And I think in TaxPlan IQ, we have a resource link where our tax advisors can go see like, okay, here's the age of the client. Here's kind of what the amount to contribute could be. You always want to work with an actuary, because there's some complexities to all of this and everyone does it a bit different, right? But the older the taxpayer, the more essentially they can put in. And then based on their W-2 comp is how much they can also put in, right? And so you can adjust those factors. Well, you can't adjust their age, but you can adjust their wages to,
Right.
move it in a certain direction if needed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the younger a client is, the more time they have before they get to that point of retirement. So they can put in less money, it's going to grow over time. If someone's closer to retirement, they can put in more because they have less time. But there are ways, like you were saying, with the wages, most business owners are S corps. And so it's only going to be those wages that they take in the form of W-2 that's going to count towards how much they can contribute to this plan.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something that we like to work with the CPAs, because for reasonable comp and, for payroll taxes, you're trying to keep it low, but then for the qualified plan, you may want to have it higher. So there's kind of that balancing act between how much do they want to pay themselves in wages.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to determine that by year end. But then the business owner has all the way until they file their taxes, including extensions, to implement this plan. So it's a really useful tool for those CPAs who their business owner clients ghosted them at the end of year. They didn't do the year-end tax planning that they should have. Now it's, March, April, they're telling them their tax liability. The client freaks out. This is something we can go back retroactively and still implement for the previous tax year.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's one of a few provisions that is retroactive. And that was from the changes they made. Did that just go into effect the beginning of 2024, or was it 2023 where you could actually retroactively create it and fund it and whatnot?
I'm not sure exactly when that happened. We've been doing it for quite a few years. So I think it was
okay. Well, maybe I was just behind the times. I thought there was, I can't remember the name of the act, but it happened around 2022. I can't believe I forget it. You get older and you forget things. That's okay. Okay. So the amount to contribute, as you mentioned, you can already stack up to $69K in 2024 into defined contribution plans. That's a combination of the employee contributions, which we all know is that 20,000 whatever, plus the employer match and contributions and safe harbor and stuff like that, right? So there's not really, if a business owner comes to you and is like, hey, I've got 60 grand to put into retirement each year, this wouldn't be the strategy for them, because you could just max out their typical defined contribution stuff, right? It's more if they have a lot more excess cash that they could fund for retirement. Tell us more about that.
Right. It's really for those business owners that have, a couple $100,000 tax liability, and they're saying, I don't want to send this check to the IRS. What can I do? So this way they can put it away for themselves instead of having to send it to the IRS. But it is for those people who are making significant amounts of income and have money that they can put away for retirement, because that's the other part of this, is that once they put it in, it's got to stay there until 59 and a half. So it can't be money they need to run their business.
Yeah.
But usually when people are at that level and they've got a couple $100,000 tax liability, it is better to put it away for themselves than send it to the IRS. And so they're still interested in doing that.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. So what would you, I'm sorry if I didn't just hear it, but I know we had kind of talked offline, 100K plus is kind of what you'd want specifically for this, with the cost benefits of the actuary, third-party fees, et cetera, right?
Right. You've got to hire an actuary to design the plan, to run all the testing, make sure they're compliant with the IRS, file all the reports. And so that's going to be a couple $1,000s a year to pay the actuaries. And so we really, unless people can put away 100,000 or more, it really doesn't make sense to pay those fees. So that's kind of the loose guideline that we put in there for that number. It's not a set number. It's just that that's usually where it makes sense.
Sure. Okay. And so there's ways you can kind of fund insurance and do some other things within these plans. Is that right?
It is. Yeah, we build in this exit strategy, because if you put a bunch of money into a deferred tax bucket like the qualified plan is, that means you're going to have to pay tax when you take it out. So we don't want to put someone in a situation where they're getting a large tax savings now, but then they just have a really large tax bill later. So what we do is we use the Indexed Universal Life to be able to fund it inside the plan and convert it over to the tax-free bucket at a discount. So we think about it like almost like a Roth conversion at a discount. And so then they're able to have access to tax-free money in the future.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And what is the risk level of this strategy?
That's my favorite part, is that this is black and white.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a qualified plan. There's no gray area. There's no tax court cases. I mean, as long as you're following the rules, as long as you hire an actuary to do all the calculations and you're not doing anything weird, then it's just black and white. So there's really not a risk.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how long has this been around? Is it since like the 1983 code or even before that? I mean, it's been around a long time. For some reason, people stopped talking about them. I don't know why. Do you have any insights on that?
My guess, at least from business owners who we've talked to, and they're like, oh, I've looked into that before, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to commit to a certain amount of funding for 10 years.
Oh, I see.
So I really think it comes down to that because, business owners don't like to be committed to anything because they just don't know from year to year what's going to happen with their business, or most of them don't. And so I think knowing that this is flexible really opens it up for people to be able to use it and gives them that assurance that I can fund it this year, knowing that if next year, if my business changes, I can just change the amount that I fund. I don't have to just be penalized for not doing that same amount.
Mm-hmm. Was there a time that was inflexible, or is it just based on the actuary?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. Okay. I know that the actuaries we work with are able to be really flexible. I don't know if that's because they have just really figured out the tax code in ways that they can kind of work around that, or if it's something new in the tax code.
Yeah, because I mean, I've been told the same thing. Probably 5-6 years ago, I was told, oh, your clients shouldn't do this unless they have this exact amount and whatnot. I'm kind of thinking maybe that's just a big old myth, or just how particular actuaries do it. But that's really good information. Let's take a step back. Let's talk a little bit more about why you started your own company and, what's life like as a business owner?
Yeah, I started my own company because I really wanted to be able to do what was right for the client and not have someone tell me what I had to do. I didn't like that whenever I was working for these bigger companies and, they would say, well, this is the product that we want you to use in your plans. And it really seems backwards. You should be able to talk to a client, figure out what they need, and then go out and find the right tool, not bring a certain tool to the table and try to cram it in their plan. So I knew as a business owner, I would have that choice and I would get to decide. And so we've always been really proud of the fact that we're independent. We're not tied to any certain company. So if our actuary partners that we're using for this cash balance plan, if all of a sudden they started doing things that we didn't like, we just find a new actuary team. We're not locked into any one thing. And so I think that's really important for clients.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. And would you say that you have conquered work-life balance, or is that still something that you're figuring out like the rest of us?
I would give myself high marks on that.
Oh, okay.
We work really hard to try to make a meaningful impact on our clients and work with the right clients. But I do not work a ton of hours. I try to be there for all of the kids' activities. And so I do think that that's something we've worked hard as a team to really bring technology in and be efficient with the time that we do work so that we can try to find some of that balance.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Okay. So it sounds like you're a strong believer in kind of having, a lifestyle business and whatnot. And you have kiddos. How old are your kids?
They are 7 and as of last week, 13. So I've got a teenager now.
Wow. Okay. So I have a 7-year-old and then 10-year-old. So a little bit younger than you, but the 10-year-old is acting 13, if not 33. So I might have to get some advice from you on that. So what all are they into? Are they into like every sport, every dance competition? What's going on there?
Yeah, I have two boys, and the older one started tackle football because he's in seventh grade. And so
Okay.
yesterday was his first game. And so I was a nervous wreck trying to make sure that he didn't get killed out there.
Yeah, I know that can be really nerve-wracking for sure. But he's doing all right.
He's doing all right. He's great. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, my 7-year-old is a boy and he's doing the flag football. So we'll see when we might have to move away from that. And then my daughter's 10. She's like a soccer champion. Who knows what happens with her. But yeah, so what would be like a tip that you think has helped you kind of manage that work-life balance well?
I think really trying to focus. Actually, I was talking to my team earlier today about just even as we look to 2025, really trying to figure out what's going to make the most impact on our clients. Do we need to work differently with our CPA partners, or do we, what can we do to make sure that we're doing the things that we want to do and that we're doing the things that we feel like are making the most impact and not just kind of running around in circles. I think that that's the hardest part of having a business, is trying to figure out what makes sense to work on at any given time.
For sure. And it sounds like you really highly value your client relationships and maybe choosing the right kind of clientele. Who is like the perfect client for you?
Really, for us, it's, when you start a business, you're just trying to figure out, can I make this work? This is an idea I had. Is it going to do anything? And so really, it's when it starts working for business owners. And so they move from kind of pushing that snowball up the hill to all of a sudden it's kind of coming down and they're getting that traction. And, usually we meet with people when they're at that point where they're like, I'm making all this money now and I don't know what to do with it. So they've kind of entered this new stage where it's great because they're making a lot of money and they're really excited about that. But they know that there's a lot more issues that now they're going to have to think about and now that they're going to have to deal with. And so we really like being able to come in and offer that perspective, just working with so many business owners that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can tell them, okay, we work with people that have been in your situation and, here's the next step. Here's some things to think about. And so I would say it's really when they make that shift to really being successful with their business and having that money come in.
Okay, gotcha. I know one thing that just came to mind that was a bit frustrating for me when I worked with clients at my CPA firm is when I would suggest retirement strategies and I would literally get, I don't believe in doing retirement. So what are your thoughts around that? Like you said, we are kind of kicking the can, so to speak, with some things, but you've got your employer match in a lot of cases with like a 401k. So there's a benefit there. What's kind of your holistic view around doing retirement planning in general? And like, is it something that people really need to focus on?
I think, yes, they do. I think it's hard as a business owner because there's only a limited amount of money, right? And when business owners are trying to invest back in their business and they kind of see that business as their retirement, we get it and we understand. And so I think it's kind of helping them figure out that balance of like, yes, we want to put money back into the business and we want to eventually sell it or transition it or whatever you want to do. But we also need to do some other things parallel. And so we try to be really efficient where, okay, let's save for retirement, but you've also got to save for your kids' college at the same time. And let's do it on a tax efficient basis. And there's just so many things to think about that I think that we're able to help business owners with that because we understand and we're not looking at it from a black and white angle of just like, you need to put X amount over here. It's more empathetic than that, understanding that there's a lot of conflicting emotions. There's a lot of conflicting priorities and just trying to help them walk through that and really figure out the best option for them.
For sure. Okay. Good deal. So you've worked with probably a lot of CPAs at this point. Have you noticed like firms that are just killing it versus ones that seem to be struggling? Have you noticed like anything that kind of makes the accounting firms that really shine?
Yeah, I think that it is creating those partnerships and realizing that it is better when we have more people together helping the client. I think the place I've seen firms struggle the most is whenever they're not getting the plans implemented. We have so many business owners that say, oh yeah, so-and-so sold me a plan. They just gave me this, piece of paper or file or whatever, but I didn't see any tax savings. And so then I just paid them all this money and I didn't get any benefit. And that's because they didn't get the plan implemented, which is not the CPA's fault necessarily, but just having the right people on the team to be able to walk the business owner through it, I think can really make the difference, because then if people see those tax savings, they're not going to be worried about that fee they paid for planning, or even the ongoing quarterly fees or whatever retainer the CPA has them on. It all makes sense as long as they're seeing that tax savings.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. You bring up the implementation. I was talking to another CPA firm owner yesterday about how they're kind of trying to sell these plans, help the taxpayers kind of self-implement. And I was really encouraging them to try to take as much of that on for the taxpayer as possible. In my firm, that's where we really were able to shine. I mean, yes, it's probably the highest fee that they'll ever pay because you can value price implementation of tax advisory services, but it's in high demand. It's really hard for people to do without expert guidance, and your clients are over the moon happy because they get the results that they want. And so the net profit margin is the best when it comes to implementation. So, I mean, for accountants, advisors listening, if you're able to help with implementation of these value priced items, it's really like going to make you stand out for sure. So you bring up a really great point.
Well, and we really try to come in and be the back office for these firms because, a lot of times people are just trying to get all the tax plans done. They don't have time to then go and implement them. And so if we can come in and work with that CPA firm and help the client, walk through that process, then the CPA firm looks great because now the client's happy and we can just work as part of the team instead of, we don't like the CPA to just send clients to us because then it feels like they're kind of moving the client away. We just like them to bring us into the process and then we can be that back office for them.
Okay, cool. And how do accountants tend to be charging for these services whenever they loop you in and you start working on these strategies?
Yeah, I mean, usually the CPA firm charges their tax planning fee, or a lot of firms that we've seen have moved to either monthly or quarterly, just putting clients on that kind of payment plan, which I think is the most successful because we know that these aren't one-time plans where the client just takes it and that's it. They've got to work on this stuff. So the CPA can charge those kind of planning fees. And then we come in, and if we're managing assets and we're making our money off of managing the investments or, implementing the cash balance plan or other things like that. So we don't charge the client a fee. We let the CPA do that. And then we can just come in and help with the actual work on that side.
Okay, cool. And so, but you're managing the assets in the back end. And so that's how you kind of have your part of the pie. Okay, cool. Totally kind of different avenue here, looking at some of the negative things happening in our industry right now for accountants. What do you think the biggest challenge that accountants are facing right now is?
I think it's really managing all of the steps. I mean, it's one thing to create this tax plan, but you have to go out there and learn all these strategies and figure out if it makes sense for the client. And it's a lot of work trying to get all that knowledge together. And then you have to meet with the client and, get them to actually do the planning, which is really difficult sometimes because sometimes clients don't return calls or, don't email you back. And so I think it's just managing all of those expectations. And that's why, we feel like it's better with a partnership where, they can create that plan and then we can help with the moving it along and kind of encouraging the client to take the next steps on implementation and not leave it all on the CPA shoulders.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Very cool. Well, I'm glad that you've kind of found your niche with where you can really help people and bring the most value. That's amazing. What is one book or maybe a TEDx talk or something like that you would recommend to everybody you know?
I think it's got to be Power of Zero by David McKnight. I remember when I first listened to it on Audible and my mind was just blown. I love how he presents the tax buckets, and he talks about the future of tax rates, and he talks about how it's not political. It's just a math problem. The taxes are eventually going to have to go up. We have to help our clients now so that they're not in a bad position later. And I just think it's a really important book.
Yes. Okay. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. I just got into it a little bit on social media about people being very upset about this new potential unrealized capital gains tax. And I'm like, look, first of all, this isn't going to happen. Secondly, if it does, it's only meant for top 0.005% of the population. And the responses I get are like, well, that's how the income tax started, was the top, 0.005% or whatever. But at the end of the day, my point being is that it is a math equation. Taxes do have to go up to balance our budget. Some of the most successful, that's hard for me to say as a tax strategist. Obviously, I want to minimize my taxpayers' liabilities and our accounting firm's liabilities. But in the grand scheme of things, the highest taxed countries, which are like the Nordic countries, are the happiest countries. And so I would love for somebody to do some kind of correlative study of why that is. Is it because they're able to supply so much healthcare and all the things to really up people's happiness levels? I don't know, but there's something there. And so I try to say, don't be too scared of paying, your fair share in tax, but of course we'll try to minimize it any way that we can, right?
Well, and I think it's important to minimize it now and minimize it later. I think that's the really, the part that sometimes people forget is that we need to look at it holistically, not just today, but over the life, what are you going to pay in taxes? And so we want to help with both sides.
For sure. Okay, awesome. So what is the best way for our listeners to get in touch with you if they have further questions or want to chat about anything?
Sure. We have a website. It's bakerwealthstrategies.com. If CPAs are listening or tax professionals, if you scroll all the way down, there's actually a link for CPAs and tax professionals.
Okay.
And so that's probably the easiest way, or they can email bwsteam@bakerwealthstrategies.com. We pride ourselves on quick response, so we'll get back to you if you email us.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. Well, it was so nice to meet you, Jennifer. Hopefully we'll get to meet in person eventually at a conference or something like that. Are there any particular conferences that you do like to attend year to year?
Oh, gosh. I really like Ed Slott's conferences. They're really technical on all of the rules for IRAs and those kind of things. I like to keep up with that.
Nice.
Went to the NATP, National Association of Tax Professionals, this past year. I thought that was a really good one. So I don't know. I guess I just kind of, every year it's a little bit different.
Yeah, very cool. I haven't been to the NATP, but I am wanting to try it out. So I'll definitely try to line up with you if that's something that you're doing as well. So sure. Anyways, thanks again. Anything else that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Just that we're really passionate about helping and really working together with the CPA. So I just want to make sure people know that we're a team player. We want to service the client, and that's our goal. So we'd love to work together.
Yeah, I assure you, people can feel that vibe from you. I feel it for sure. And so I can tell you care a lot, and that's really, really important. So thanks so much, Jennifer. Have a great one. Thank you for listening to the Concierge CPA, hosted by Tax Plan IQ. We believe that every person has a unique message that can positively impact the world. If you are a successful accounting firm owner or influencer who would like to be on this program, please visit JackieMeyerCPA.com, JackieMeyer CPA.com to apply. Please share this on social media and rate us so we can continue our good work. Join our Facebook group called Accounting Firm Influencers, or connect with me on most platforms under Jackie Meyer CPA. Thanks for being accountable to transforming our industry today.